The proposition. The seal tank's filtration system was making that rattling noise again. Zara Chen sighed, pushing damp strands of black hair from her forehead as she adjusted the ancient pump. The Harbor Point Aquarium's budget cuts meant repairs rather than replacements, and this particular system had been on life support for months. Dr. Chen, the intern Miguel hovered in the doorway. "There's a call for you. Says it's urgent. Pacific Memorial Hospital." Zara's stomach dropped. She'd been waiting for this call, dreading it with every fiber of her being. Her hands were still wet as she grabbed the receiver in the cramped staff office. "This is Dr. Chen." 10 minutes later, she sat immobile at the desk, the words of Lily's specialist echoing in her mind. The experimental treatment was Lily's best hope, perhaps her only hope, against the aggressive autoimmune disease destroying her 20-year-old sister's body. Insurance wouldn't cover it. The cost, $400,000. The aquarium paid Zara barely enough to cover rent on her modest apartment and the existing medical bills. Her savings account held less than $7,000. 3 loan applications had already been rejected. "I'll figure something out," she whispered to herself, the promise feeling hollow even as she made it. That evening, after checking on Lily at the hospital, Zara returned to the small research lab behind the penguin habitat. The aquarium had granted her this space for her marine conservation studies, work that felt increasingly futile as funding disappeared and ocean temperatures rose. Still, it was here among her notes and specimens that she felt closest to making a difference. "Dr. Zara Chen," she startled at the voice. A man in an impeccably tailored suit stood in the doorway, tall, with silver-streaked dark hair and rectangular glasses that reflected the fluorescent lights. "We're closed," Zara said, instinctively stepping in front of her research. "The aquarium opens again at 9 tomorrow. Marcus Blackwood," he continued as if she hadn't spoken, extending a business card. "Legal counsel for Dominic Reeves." The name sparked immediate recognition. Dominic Reeves, reclusive genius behind Celestial Dynamics, the company revolutionizing private space exploration and deep space communication. His innovations had made him billions before he'd turned 35. But his notorious reclusiveness had spawned countless rumors. "What does Dominic Reeves want with a marine biologist at an underfunded aquarium?" Zara asked, not bothering to hide her suspicion. "Mr. Reeves has a proposition that might solve your current financial difficulties." Zara's blood ran cold. "How do you know about my financial situation?" "Mr. Reeves is thorough in his research." Blackwood placed a leather portfolio on her desk. "He's aware of your sister's condition and the experimental treatment she requires." "That's private medical information," Zara snapped, "and yet accessible to those with resources." Blackwood's tone remained neutral. "Mr. Reeves is prepared to cover all costs related to your sister's treatment and provide you with an additional sum of $500,000. For a moment, Zara couldn't breathe. That kind of money would not only save Lily but secure their future. "What does he want in return?" she finally asked, her scientist's mind already calculating the inevitable cost. "Marriage. 1 year, legally binding with a quiet dissolution afterward." Zara barked out a laugh that contained no humor. "Is this a joke?" "Mr. Reeves does not joke, Dr. Chen." Blackwood opened the portfolio, revealing a contract thick with legal terminology. "The arrangement would be purely contractual. You would reside in his home but maintain separate living quarters. No intimate relationship is expected. Your research would continue with full funding. Your sister's medical expenses would be covered immediately and completely." "Why me?" The question escaped before she could stop it. "I'm nobody. I work with seals and damaged coral reefs. I have nothing to do with space technology." Something flickered across Blackwood's face, the first hint of emotion he'd shown. "You are the daughter of Dr. James Chen, the name of her father, who had abandoned their family when Zara was 16 and Lily just 10, sent a shock through her system. "I haven't seen or spoken to him in 12 years, she said, her voice hardening. "Whatever connection you think exists doesn't. Nevertheless, you are his daughter." Blackwood adjusted his glasses. "Mr. Reeves has his reasons which he prefers to discuss personally. Should you agree to the preliminary terms?" He slid a card across the desk. "The contract is available for your review. Mr. Reeves will expect your answer within 48 hours." After Blackwood left, Zara sat in the silent lab, the contract radiating a malevolent energy beside her research notes. This was madness, something out of a bad novel, not real life. Yet the business card was real, the letterhead legitimate. A quick internet search confirmed Blackwood's position at Celestial Dynamics. Later that night, Zara sat beside Lily's hospital bed, watching her sister's labored breathing. Once vibrant and quick to laugh, Lily had been reduced to a pale shadow, her dancer's body now fragile and thin. The disease had struck suddenly 8 months ago, progressing with terrifying speed. "Hey there," Lily whispered, her eyes fluttering open. "You look terrible," Zara managed to smile. "Look who's talking. Any news on the treatment?" Hope flickered briefly in Lily's eyes, hope that Zara couldn't bear to extinguish. "I'm working on it," she answered, squeezing her sister's hand. "I promise." The next morning, against every rational thought, Zara called the number on Blackwood's card. 3 hours later, she found herself standing before the sleek glass headquarters of Celestial Dynamics. The security check was extensive, the elevator ride to the top floor silent and swift. Blackwood met her at the penthouse entrance, leading her through a minimalist space of glass, steel, and stunning views of the Pacific. "Mr. Reeves," Blackwood announced as they entered a vast office dominated by a wall of screens, displaying star maps and technical diagrams. Dominic Reeves turned from the window, and Zara's carefully prepared words vanished from her mind. He was younger than she'd expected, perhaps early 40s, with intense gray eyes set in a face that might have been handsome, if not for its complete lack of warmth. Dark hair cut precisely, expensive but simple clothing, and a watchfulness that made her feel like a specimen under a microscope. "Dr. Chen," he said, his voice unexpectedly quiet but clear. "Thank you for coming." "I haven't agreed to anything," she replied, finding her voice. "Yet you're here." He gestured to a seating area, which suggests you're considering the arrangement. As they sat, Zara noticed his hands, long-fingered, precise in movement, and the careful distance he maintained. "Why me?" she asked directly. "And what does my father have to do with this?" Something flashed in his eyes, a cold anger quickly controlled. "Your father and I were once colleagues. He took something from me, something irreplaceable. I haven't seen him in 12 years, Zara repeated her earlier statement. "He left us without explanation. Whatever conflict exists between you has nothing to do with me." "On the contrary," Dominic replied. "It has everything to do with you." He didn't elaborate further, instead moving to business. "The contract is straightforward. 1 year of marriage. You live in my residence. We appear as a couple at required social functions. Your sister receives the treatment she needs. You receive financial security." "And what do you get?" Zara pressed. "Revenge against my father? How does marrying me accomplish that?" A slight smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Let's call it a necessary business maneuver. The reasons are my concern." Zara stood abruptly. "I'm not a chess piece in whatever game you're playing with my father." "Your sister has approximately 6 months without this treatment," Dominic stated flatly. "The banking system has already denied you 3 times. The crowdfunding page you created has raised less than $10,000. You have no other options." The clinical assessment of her desperation struck like a physical blow. "You're a monster," she whispered. "I'm pragmatic," he corrected, "and I'm offering salvation for your sister in exchange for a temporary inconvenience to you." Zara turned away, staring out at the ocean view while her mind raced. He was right about one thing: she had no other options. Lily was running out of time. "If I agree," she said finally, turning back to face him, "I want the money for Lily's treatment transferred immediately, not after the wedding. Before I sign anything. Done. No hesitation. And my research continues, fully funded, already arranged." She took a deep breath. "And after 1 year we part ways. No complications, no extensions." Dominic Reeves stood, extending his hand to seal their bargain. "Welcome to the arrangement, Dr. Chen." As their hands touched, Zara felt a chill that had nothing to do with the room's temperature. She was making a deal with the devil to save her sister. She just hoped her soul would survive the exchange. Cold mansion, colder heart. The Reeves estate perched on a cliff overlooking the Pacific, a modernist structure of glass and stone that seemed to grow organically from the rugged coastline. Zara stood in her new bedroom suite, larger than her entire apartment, watching waves crash against the rocks below. 3 days had passed since the courthouse ceremony, where she had become on paper Mrs. Dominic Reeves. The medical center had called that morning. Lily's treatment had begun. Whatever else happened, that reality anchored Zara through the strangeness of her new life. "Your laboratory has been prepared," announced Mrs. Winters, the stern housekeeper who seemed perpetually disapproving of Dominic's new wife. "Mr. Reeves thought you might wish to continue your research here, rather than commuting to the aquarium." The home laboratory exceeded anything Zara could have imagined. Cutting-edge equipment, perfect temperature control, specimens carefully transported from her aquarium workspace. Despite herself, she felt a flutter of excitement at what she might accomplish with such resources. Dominic himself remained an elusive presence. They shared occasional silent meals where he worked on tablets while she pretended the situation wasn't surreal. He disappeared for hours into his private wing of the house, where Zara understood his own laboratory and offices were located. One night, unable to sleep, Zara wandered into the mansion's library. She was surprised to find Dominic there, studying old research papers spread across a large table. "Your father's original theoretical framework for deep space communication," he said without looking up. "Brilliant, but fundamentally flawed." Zara approached cautiously. "Is that what he took from you? Research?" "He took everything," Dominic replied, his voice controlled but tight. "My work, my reputation, my future as it should have been." "He abandoned us too," Zara said quietly. "Left my mother to die of cancer while Lily and I watched. Whatever he did to you, we weren't part of it." Something flickered across Dominic's face, a momentary softening before the mask returned. "Yet here you are." 2 weeks into the arrangement, Zara accompanied Dominic to a hospital, not Lily's, but a private research facility where he funded several projects. She watched with surprise as children in the pediatric wing greeted him with enthusiasm. One small girl with bandaged eyes reached for his hand without hesitation. "You come every month," the nurse explained to Zara. "He reads to them. Funds their treatments too, of course, but the reading is what they look forward to." Later, driving home in silence, Zara studied his profile. "You never mentioned your philanthropy. It's not relevant to our arrangement," he replied without emotion. "You don't want people to know you have a heart." His hands tightened on the steering wheel. "What I have is a responsibility to use my resources effectively." The next morning, Zara found research articles on her sister's condition with handwritten notes in the margins. Dominic's writing, technical observations about treatment protocols and suggestions for complementary therapies. He was monitoring Lily's case personally. The contradiction of the man fascinated her despite her determination to maintain emotional distance. Cold and calculating one moment, unexpectedly thoughtful the next, she began cataloging these glimpses beneath the surface, like a scientist documenting a rare species. One evening, a message arrived from Blackwood containing information about her father's current whereabouts, a research station in South America. Attached was a file labeled Project Aurora Original Breach. Heart-pounding, Zara opened it to find evidence of what had transpired between Dominic and her father. Technical documents, emails, patent applications. As she read, the blood drained from her face. According to these records, her father had stolen Dominic's revolutionary deep space communication system, modified it slightly, and claimed it as his own. The betrayal had nearly destroyed Dominic's early career before he'd rebuilt with different technology. "Now you understand." Dominic stood in the doorway, watching her reaction. "This is why you married me? To what, get back at him?" The pieces clicked together. "You're using me to draw him out." "Among other reasons," Dominic admitted. "The corporate world watches my personal life closely. A sudden marriage creates both distraction and opportunity." "I'm bait," Zara whispered. "A pawn." "You're getting what you wanted. Your sister's treatment, your research funded. The arrangement is mutually beneficial." "And completely cold-blooded," she snapped. Something unexpected flashed in his eyes. Not anger, but hurt, quickly concealed. "We all do what's necessary to protect what matters to us." As he turned to leave, Zara noticed for the first time the slight unevenness in his gait, a nearly imperceptible limp he carefully disguised. That night, she researched Dominic's background more thoroughly, finding mentions of an accident early in his career, a prototype failure that had left him hospitalized for months. The timing aligned perfectly with her father's supposed betrayal. The man she had married wasn't just seeking professional revenge. He was haunted by physical scars that matched his emotional ones, injuries possibly caused by her own father's actions. The realization added unwanted complexity to her carefully maintained resentment. Thawing ice 3 months into their arrangement, Zara found herself preparing for the Celestial Dynamics annual gala, a major industry event where their marriage would face its first public test. The designer gown Dominic had arranged felt foreign against her skin, accustomed to lab coats and wetsuits. "You look—" Dominic paused when he saw her descending the staircase, something shifting in his typically impassive expression. "Extraordinary." The compliment, delivered with unexpected sincerity, caused an unwelcome flutter in her chest. The gala proved more challenging than anticipated. Industry rivals watched them like hawks, seeking any sign their marriage wasn't genuine. Zara found herself instinctively protective of Dominic as she observed his discomfort with the social demands. His public persona, controlled, distant, brilliant, concealed what she now recognized as deep-seated unease with extended human interaction. When technology magnate Victor Drummond publicly questioned the viability of Dominic's latest project, suggesting his innovations had stalled, Zara surprised herself by intervening. "Actually," she said, drawing on knowledge gleaned from research papers in Dominic's library, "the adaptive communication array your company is developing is based on principles Dominic theorized 3 years ago. You're just now catching up to where he began." Later, as they danced, maintaining appearances, Dominic's arm around her waist felt less like part of an act and more like a genuine connection. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for what you said to Drummond. I just stated facts. Few people defend me. Maybe because you make it so difficult," she challenged gently. A hint of a real smile touched his lips. "A fair assessment." That night, returning home, an unexpected spring storm knocked out power to the estate. In the darkness of the hallway outside her room, Zara literally collided with Dominic. His hands steadied her, lingering longer than necessary. The darkness seemed to dissolve the careful boundaries they'd established. Without visual distractions, she became acutely aware of his breathing, his scent, the warmth of his body close to hers. "Zara," he whispered, her name sounding different in his voice. What happened next occurred without conscious decision, a gravitational pull neither could resist. His lips found hers in the darkness, the kiss tentative at first, then deepening with surprising hunger. When they broke apart, breathless, the emergency generators hummed to life, soft lighting illuminating their stunned expressions. Reality crashed back. This wasn't part of their arrangement. This wasn't supposed to be real. "I should check the systems," Dominic said, his composed mask slipping back into place, though his eyes remained turbulent. "Of course," Zara agreed quickly, retreating to her room, heart racing with confusion. The following weeks brought a subtle but undeniable shift. Dominic began joining her in the home laboratory, offering insights on her conservation research. They shared meals where conversation gradually replaced silence. She found herself looking forward to these interactions, cataloging the rare occasions when he truly smiled. Lily's treatment showed promising results. During a hospital visit, Zara watched from the doorway as Dominic sat beside her sister's bed, patiently explaining the technical aspects of her treatment protocol. Lily, always perceptive, caught Zara's eye and raised an eyebrow in silent question about the nature of their relationship. A question Zara couldn't answer, because the lines had begun to blur. The contract marriage designed for revenge and necessity had become something undefined but increasingly genuine. One evening, working late in his study, Dominic shared the breakthrough technology he was developing, a communication system that could potentially detect signals from civilizations beyond our galaxy. "This is what my life's work has been building toward," he explained, animation transforming his usually stoic features. "What your father nearly destroyed." "Why show me this?" Zara asked, moved by his rare vulnerability. "Because I trust you," he answered simply. "Despite everything, despite how this began, I find myself trusting you." The admission hung between them, significant and fragile. When he kissed her this time, there was no darkness to blame, no surprise to claim. Only a conscious choice, a bridge crossing from pretense to authenticity. Later, in the intimate shadow of his bedroom, their physical connection mirrored the emotional one forming against all odds. Dominic's touch was reverent, discovering her body with the same focused intensity he brought to his research. Zara found unexpected tenderness in a man the world considered cold, his vulnerability in these private moments all the more precious for its rarity. Afterward, tracing the substantial scar along his leg, evidence of the accident following her father's betrayal, Zara faced an uncomfortable truth. She was falling in love with a man who had married her for revenge. Buried truths. 5 months into their marriage, Zara had grown accustomed to the contradiction that was life with Dominic Reeves. Their relationship had transformed into something neither had anticipated: genuine companionship, mutual respect, and a deepening emotional connection that increasingly overshadowed the contractual beginnings. Lily had been released from the hospital, her treatment progressing remarkably well. Zara's research was yielding promising results for coral reef restoration. In quiet moments, she allowed herself to imagine a future beyond their 1-year agreement, a dangerous indulgence she knew might lead to heartbreak. The illusion shattered one afternoon when Dominic was called away to an emergency at Celestial headquarters. Searching his study for research notes they'd been discussing, Zara accidentally triggered a hidden compartment in his desk. Inside lay a comprehensive file labeled Operation Homecoming, detailed plans for using their marriage to manipulate her father into returning to the United States, where evidence had been arranged to publicly discredit him and trigger federal investigations into intellectual property theft. The final phase included calculated stock, manipulations timed with their divorce announcement, designed to maximize damage to research institutions currently employing her father. Most disturbing were notes about using Zara's research as additional leverage. Her work on marine conservation contained elements that, when combined with Celestial's technology, could significantly enhance deep space communication. Dominic had been quietly integrating her findings with his systems. "You were never going to tell me," she said when he returned. The damning document spread before her. Dominic didn't deny it. "The plan was formed before I knew you. Before you knew me. You've been implementing it for months while sharing my bed, while making me believe." She stopped, unwilling to admit how completely she'd been deceived. "It's complicated," he began. "It's betrayal," she corrected, pain sharpening her voice. "You're no better than my father." His expression hardened. "I never claimed to be. Did any of it mean anything? Or was everything, every touch, every conversation, every moment I thought I saw the real you, just part of your master plan?" Something raw flashed across his face. "Not everything. Zara, you have to understand." "I understand perfectly," she interrupted. "You married me for revenge, then realized my research was valuable too." "Double benefit," she laughed bitterly. "I should be flattered by your efficiency." "That's not fair." "Fair? You've orchestrated this entire relationship to destroy my father and exploit my work. Your father nearly killed me." Dominic's control finally shattered. His negligence, his theft of my safety protocols, the system exploded during testing. I spent a year learning to walk again while he built his reputation on my stolen research. "So you punish me, use me?" "I didn't expect to care about you," he admitted, his voice dropping. "That wasn't part of the plan." The confession hung between them, insufficient against the magnitude of the deception. "Lily's treatment is complete next week," Zara said coldly. "I'll be moving out after that. You'll have your revenge without my continued participation." She turned to leave, but his next words stopped her. "There's something you don't know about your father's disappearance." Zara froze. Don't you dare use more manipulation. He left to protect you and Lily." Dominic's voice was quiet. "I discovered this recently. Corporate rivals threatened your safety if he didn't cooperate with them. His disappearance wasn't abandonment, it was sacrifice." The possibility that her 12 years of bitterness might be misplaced struck Zara like a physical blow. "You're lying. I have the proof. It doesn't excuse his theft of my work, but it explains why he vanished from your lives." Overwhelmed and unwilling to unravel more deceptions, Zara packed essential belongings and left the mansion that night, seeking refuge in Lily's small apartment. Her sister, now well enough to return to dance classes, asked few questions, but provided silent support as Zara struggled to. reconcile the man she'd grown to love with the calculated revenge architect she'd discovered. Most painful was the possibility that both her father and Dominic had acted from complex motivations that defied simple categorization as right or wrong. The black and white worldview that had sustained her crumbled, leaving uncomfortable SE. Celestial navigation. 3 weeks passed with no contact from Dominic. Zara threw herself into work at the aquarium, which had benefited significantly from the research equipment he'd provided. Lily continued to improve, her strength returning with each passing day. The contractual funds had been transferred as promised. Dominic was nothing if not a man of his word. Even as their personal relationship disintegrated, on a rain-soaked Thursday, Zara received an unexpected visitor at the aquarium, Marcus Blackwood. Looking distinctly uncomfortable in the humid environment of the penguin habitat. "Dr. Chen," he began formally, "Mr. Reeves asked me to deliver this personally." The envelope contained coordinates and the address of an observatory in the mountains 4 hours north, along with a short note in Dominic's precise handwriting. "The truth. Your decision afterward. He found your father," Blackwood explained. "They've spoken." Curiosity and long-buried hope overrode Zara's determination to sever all connections. The following day she made the solitary drive into the mountains, emotions churning as violently as the stormy skies above. The observatory was modest, remote, and surrounded by towering redwoods. Inside she found not Dominic but a man she hadn't seen in 12 years, older, grayer, but unmistakably her father. "Zara." James Chen's voice broke on her name. "You came." Hours of painful conversation followed. Her father confirmed what Dominic had claimed. Corporate rivals had threatened Zara and Lily when he refused to implement unsafe technology. His disappearance had been the only way to ensure their protection. "But Dominic's research, you stole it," she pressed. James looked pained. "I tried to stop him from implementing a flawed system. The quantum relay wasn't stable. It would have catastrophically failed. When he wouldn't listen, I modified the designs, published them with critical safety revisions. The accident was because he tried to proceed with his original design anyway." Her father sighed heavily. "I never wanted recognition. I wanted to prevent disaster. When the system partially exploded during testing, injuring Dominic, I became the perfect scapegoat. It was easier to blame theft than acknowledge fundamental errors in his approach." "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because Dominic found me, confronted me, and finally listened." James smiled sadly. "He's changed, Zara. 12 years ago his brilliance was matched only by his arrogance. Now he actually listened to the technical explanations, verified them independently, and his revenge plan, using me to draw you out, succeeded, though not as he anticipated." Her father's expression softened. "He told me how the arrangement with you changed him." "How you changed him?" Driving back down the mountain, Zara's mind whirled with revelations. Both men had made profound mistakes. Both had acted from complex motivations: protection, pride, pain. She found Dominic waiting on the beach below his mansion, staring out at the churning ocean. He turned at her approach, vulnerability evident in his usually guarded expression. "You found him," she said. "I needed to know the complete truth." Wind tousled his dark hair as he stepped closer. "I was wrong, Zara. Not about everything. Your father did take my research. But his reasons," he paused. "His changes saved lives. Would have saved me from injury if I'd listened." "Why tell me this now? You had your perfect revenge scenario." "Because I love you." The words, never before spoken between them, hung in the wind. "The plan stopped mattering months ago. You became everything." He reached for her hand tentatively. "The contract's terms are fulfilled. Lily's treatment is complete. The year isn't over, but you're free to go." "And if I don't want freedom?" she challenged. Surprise flickered across his face. "After everything." "We've both lived with partial truths and misplaced blame," Zara interrupted. "My father made mistakes. So did you. So did I. Believing the worst of both of you without seeking deeper understanding." She entwined her fingers with his. "I don't want a contractual arrangement, Dominic. If we move forward, it has to be real. Equal. Honest. I don't know if I remember how to do that," he admitted quietly. "Then we learn together." Zara stepped closer, reclaiming the intimacy they'd found against all odds. Your revenge plan failed spectacularly, you know. A hint of his rare smile appeared. How so? You married me to punish my father, but ended up creating a family instead. Lily considers you her brother now. My father respects your scientific brilliance. And She paused, allowing herself the vulnerability of truth. I fell in love with the man behind the mask. Dominic pulled her against him, his embrace conveying what words struggled to express. Above them, stars began appearing as clouds cleared, distant light traveling unfathomable distances to reach them, like the improbable journey that had brought them together. The communication array, he murmured against her hair. It works now, integrating your marine biological principles. We're receiving signals we can't yet interpret, patterns from somewhere beyond our imagination. Perhaps they're saying what we're just learning, Zara suggested, looking up at the night sky with him. That connection is possible across the greatest distances. That understanding takes time and courage. That love, like light, finds its way through the darkness. As their lips met, sealing an unspoken promise, Zara reflected on the strange path that had led to this moment. A contract meant to exploit had transformed into a bond freely chosen. A plan for revenge had yielded instead to forgiveness and truth. And two people who had protected themselves with isolation had somehow, against all probability, found home in each other. The universe, it seemed, had its own plan all along.